Hey everyone, it is Dani'i and welcome to this update video. And so in this video, we're going to be taking a look at what is now Hurricane Agatha. So we have Agatha over in the Eastern Pacific and it is going to be making landfall in Mexico very soon. And it is likely that the remnants could make their way over into the Atlantic Basin where redevelopment will be possible. So we'll be taking a look at all of that and what the various models are expecting. And so before I go into details, okay, and so looking at satellite imagery right now, we're seeing that Agatha isn't the most organized hurricane right now, but it is getting in shape and it does have those areas of very deep convection with a lot of rainfall, a lot of gusty winds. And as this thing here is going to be making its way onshore, we're going to also have that storm surge. And so quite a bit of areas are under various watches and warnings. So a hurricane warning is in effect for Salina Cruz to Lagunas de Chacahua. A hurricane watch is in effect for Salina Cruz eastward to Barra de Tonala, and a tropical storm warning is in effect for Salina Cruz eastward to Boca de Pijijiapan and Lagunas de Chacahua westward to Punta Maldonado. So all of those areas are expected to feel either tropical storm-like or hurricane-like conditions by tomorrow, but some of these areas have already begun experiencing some of those conditions because the other bands of the storm have begun making their way onshore. So guys, if you're in any of these regions, please take all the necessary precautions and stay safe. And so now let's go ahead and take a look at that cone forecast from the National Hurricane Center. And so Agatha currently has winds of 75 miles per hour. So it's just a Category 1 hurricane and it is accelerating to the north-northwest at 3 miles per hour as of right now. So it's going to start to make that eastward turn by later today. And as I said, by tomorrow, this thing here is expected to make landfall. And once it makes landfall, we see that by Tuesday afternoon, it's going to be a depression. So it's going to be rapidly losing strength. And that's because it's going to be cut off from all of the warm ocean waters. Basically, anything that it needs in order to maintain intensity is going to be cut off from all that. So it is likely that this thing here will dissipate over Mexico. However, that's not likely to be the end of the story because the remnants, as I said earlier, they could make their way over into the Gulf or the Caribbean. And so for that reason, the National Hurricane Center has highlighted this area where we could see some possible development. And so this might be a little bit confusing, but in essence, the remnants of Agatha are expected to be within the Gulf of Mexico and the Bay of Campeche and could accelerate to the east or to the east-northeast once they're over that area, guys. So I would say areas within the northwestern Caribbean, also Florida and the Bahamas. Please keep an eye on this because this could definitely be a little troublemaker, even if it doesn't become something very major like a major storm or hurricane. If we do have some formation or just a lot of moisture, that alone could result in widespread rainfall, which could in turn lead to some flooding. And let us go ahead now and see what the various models are expecting. So we have the GFS model here, and so GFS is expecting that it's going to be making landfall by tomorrow, of course, on the 30th of the month, and rapidly lose intensity by Wednesday. But we see that there is a mess. We have a lot of moisture, a lot of rainfall taking place within the vicinity of Central America. And so as we head to Friday on the 3rd of June, however, here is something interesting. A low pressure system developing just off Cuba right there. And also out in the Atlantic, GFS is also showing that something else could be trying to form in that region. But we really have to wait and see. The National Hurricane Center, as you saw, just one area is highlighted for possible development. And then GFS shows that by next Sunday, this thing here is going to be making its way towards the Bahamas, bringing all of that rainfall, the gusty winds and all that with it, and eventually make its way out later on the day. And so the maximum intensity that the GFS is expecting when this thing is going to be re-emerging is a tropical storm, not showing a hurricane possible. And we have a lot of factors here that would influence that. We're talking about the wind shear, dry air presence, and also land interaction. Land interaction is a big inhibiting factor because, of course, tropical cyclones, they need to remain over the warm ocean waters in order to really develop and intensify, keeping that other factors stay favorable enough to allow that intensification to take place. And so now let's go ahead and take a look at what Euro is expecting. So Euro is showing that by Friday of this week, we will have that low pressure area, a 1003 millibar low pressure area within the Gulf of Mexico, and really just showing a broad area right there. And so as we head to Monday of next week on the 6th of June, Euro is showing that this thing here is going to be making its way over into the northwestern Caribbean. So another model sort of agreeing with this scenario here, and then eventually Euro shows it actually making somewhat of a northward movement and going out to Florida thereabout and the Bahamas, not as a very organized system, but definitely a rainmaker. And then the next model we want to take a look at is the Icon model. So whereas we have the GFS and Euro showing that this thing here is going to be intensifying in the Caribbean, we have Icon expecting intensification within the Gulf of Mexico. So a lot of possibilities are on the table. I mean, well, the Atlantic hurricane season begins on Wednesday, which is of course the 1st of June, and so it is likely that as we're going to be starting the hurricane season for the Atlantic basin this week, we could see development of a system. And so if we have the remnants redeveloping, then we will not have Agatha but rather Alex, because once the system dissipates and it's just a lot of moisture remaining, and then that redevelops into another basin, in this case the Atlantic basin, then that is when it acquires a name from that list and it will not retain its previous name. And so let us take a look at conditions right now. So in terms of the sea surface temperatures, we are seeing that the Eastern Pacific is definitely there. We have these favorable ocean temperatures up to 30-31 degrees Celsius in some parts, but let's call it an average of around 30 degrees Celsius. So Agatha is definitely in favorable conditions at the moment that would enable further intensification. And now in terms of this dry air, so we have this dry air map right here, and as we head more towards the oranges and the reds, that is when we have more of an abundance of dry air. And so over the Eastern Pacific, we're not seeing a whole lot, but we do have some dry air present in the Gulf of Mexico and also in sections of the Caribbean. And so if this thing here is going to be redeveloping, this would be an inhibiting factor, and also if we don't have the upper level winds being very favorable. And so we really have to wait and see. But as I said, if you're in areas such as the northwestern Caribbean, Florida, and the Bahamas, you want to keep an eye out for this potential re-intensification as we're going to be heading into the latter part of this week and next week. And so guys, that is really it. And so with the hurricane season beginning and no system, it's likely that this year is going to be breaking that streak where that we've been seeing for the past 7 consecutive seasons of preseason activity. So 2022 is likely the year that's going to be breaking that streak. I mean, I don't see anything really developing within the next 3 days, and the hurricane season begins in about 3 days' time. So I will be keeping you updated on this as time goes by. So regardless of us not having preseason development this year, it is likely that as the season is going to be starting, we could see something developing in the Atlantic basin. So I will be keeping you updated on this as time goes by. And so guys, if you found this video to be quite informative, please give a thumbs up, and you can also share thoughts with me in the comments or ask a question. I will try to respond as best and as soon as I can. And of course, remember to always be weatherwise.